Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 78 of the All Dolphins podcast. And first, before I name the player for who this is dedicated, guys and gals, I hope you understand this is not necessarily the best player who wore that number. It's the players who come to mind very quickly or who is the subject related to an interesting story. So with 78, I'm going to throw out two names. The first one is a borderline Hall of Famer, offensive tackle, one of the greatest offensive tackles in Dolphin history, if not the greatest. Omar struggling. He's before your time, Omar, so you catch a break. It's Richmond Webb, ninth overall pick from Texas A&M. And you saw him. I don't know if you saw him because you were focusing on the Dolphins.
I saw him. He blocked out my view. He apologized on Twitter too, because I was like, "Who was it that told? Was it you that told me that was Richmond Webb?" I was like, "Who is this massive human being like blocking out my view of practice in the joint practice against the Houston Texans?" And then somebody told me it was Richmond Webb. I was like, "Oh my God, that's Richmond Webb." Okay, now it makes a lot of sense. That is a massive man, and I get why he was he should probably be a Hall of Fame caliber player.
Oh, he definitely belongs in the conversation. Whether he gets in, I would make the argument to me, and this is not going to go over very well. I think he's a more legitimate candidate than Mark Clayton, for example. Who I know has been brought up.
How dare you?
Well, Mark Clayton was
the Marx brothers got to get in.
They haven't gotten in, and I don't know that they're going to get in.
They can get in with the legends.
Maybe.
Yeah, they could get in. Famous FAMU product. He's now deceased, and he was our actually head coach and our athletic director. Cornerback for the Bengals just got in this past class. And I was absolutely Ken Riley, yes. I was absolutely shocked that he got in. And I've known this man for quite a while, just because before he died.
Yeah.
And come on. And Ken Riley didn't have the career that the Marx brothers or Richmond Webb had. So if we're just gonna, and I'm not disrespecting Ken Riley and what he accomplished and what he achieved, but the Legends Committee,
dude, Ken Riley was a hell of a cornerback. And the thing is, you can't go by numbers, and that's where you cannot go strictly by numbers at some point, because Mark Clayton has produced very, very, very good numbers, but it's also you're going to have to factor in the fact, like it or not, that he played with Dan Marino, who is arguably the greatest passer in the history of the NFL.
Okay, so nobody on Dan Marino's team deserves to go into the Hall of Fame, but Dan Marino.
Didn't I just say Richmond Webb?
Yeah, but nobody's in so far. So Dan Marino was it, and that whole team was just crap without Dan Marino. That's a statement that the Hall of Fame committee is making.
No, you can have a lot of really, really good players. Again, there's a difference between very good players and Hall of Fame players. So I don't know. And the thing about Richmond Webb that really stood out to me is I'm not so sure his best year was in his first year. He came in, 1990 was his first year. This was the year they drafted Richmond Webb in round 1, Keith Sims in round 2. And that first year he came in, and oh my God, was he awesome from the start. Not to say his play declined, but the standard he set as a rookie, it was mind-blowing. In 1990, Dolphin fans of a certain age, of the older variety, would remember they were 12-4 that year. And a part of it was the defense finally had a resurgence after some bad years in the late 80s, but also Webb and Sims really solidified that offensive line.
And who's your second player?
Okay, here's the one. And not that he had necessarily a great career, great dude, by the way. But it was involved in a very interesting story here. This is the first ever draft pick from Marist University or Marist College out of New York. Come on, there you go, defensive lineman. Had a block punt in the final minute of a 2014 delayed December game against the Minnesota Vikings.
Terrence Fede
to give the Dolphins a 37-35 win. It was historical. I don't know how many times it had been done before. Block punt for a safety in the final minute of a wild game. And the only reason I did a ranking of the top 100 games in Dolphin history. I had that somewhere, I don't know, maybe in the 30s. The only reason it wasn't like top 5 is because the Dolphins already were out of playoff contention. But that game was wild. And the story there, if you recall, after the game, that was when Stephen Ross came in and told all the reporters, "I'll give you an early Christmas present. You will not have to be chasing a story of a coaching search because Joe Philbin's coming back for 2015."
And it was the worst mistake of his tenure as owner. The worst. The players are like, "What?" And so and so the next time that they didn't want a coach to come back, which was the Adam Gase year. I'm sorry. I find it so hilarious. The next time they didn't want a coach to come back, which was Adam Gase's last season, which was
last season was 18.
Yeah, 18. They basically tanked the final month of the season. And in the final game against Buffalo, players, a legion of them just pulled themselves out of the game like, yeah, we don't want to play. We're good. Thanks. And then remember, when we went into the locker room, this is one of my all-time favorite stories. We went into the locker room, and I had the impression that players were going to rally and say, yeah, we want Gase back. You know, Gase deserves another chance. We went into the locker room, and we were like, so do you think Adam should return? Do you think he should get another opportunity to get this ship righted? And players are looking at us like, well, that's a decision above my pay grade. I don't want to, make it. I remember Laramie Tunsil and Juwan James. They emphatically did not want Gase to come back. Cameron Wake did not want Gase to come back. It was, and I learned at that time that Gase had thrown so many players under the bus during his tenure as the Dolphins head coach that it just soured them, and they knew he wasn't going to change, so the coach needed to change. And wow, I never seen a team quit on a coach before. And that final month of that season, they were done with him. I believe it was after the Minnesota game where he just threw everybody under the bus. It was a loss to Minnesota.
Was that the game? Was that the game that Kalen Ballage had like the 75-yard touchdown?
I can't even remember, but yeah, it was. They were just done with him, and I'd never seen anything like that before. And I the funny thing is, I always said this publicly, and Gase hated the fact that I said it publicly. I always said he's going to be a better coach on his second go around when he matures a little. He hated the fact that I said that because, Gase wasn't that mature as a head coach. He was Mike Martz reincarnated.
Oh, that's a great pull. That's a great pull.
I mean, remember, Mike Martz was his mentor. So he was Mike Martz reincarnated. And those types of personalities just rub players the wrong way. And I'm not even saying, because Gase is meant to coach this generation's worth of players. I remember him having a conversation with me about some of my beefs on the team, and I had a lot of beefs on that team. And he was just like, yeah, you can't be ultra critical with this era of players. They can't handle criticism. And I'm like, well, damn, that's what I do. Like, and he was just like, yeah, you gotta be a little bit more gentle with them. And that was a conversation that we had that really made me stop doing like film cut-ups and breakdowns, because players just could not handle it at all.
Yeah, but that's kind of semi-reflection of society, isn't it? Forget just football players, just like people in general. No, and quick prologue to the Stephen Ross coming into the locker room and telling us that, okay, we're keeping Joe Philbin. This is
horrible decision.
Yeah, no, it was 2014, and then Ross fired Philbin 4 games into the 2015 season after they lost in London
because the team had quit on him. When a team quits on a coach, they quit on a coach. Like, there's nothing you could do about it, and it's tough to get him back. And 2018, it's interesting too, because if that month in December, before things went really south for the Dolphins, when they had the miracle in Miami, that was December 9th, I think the exact date. And at that time, like Rain Man with these dates and numbers and stats, I can't.
It's kind of a famous game, so
I understand that. I couldn't put the Miracle in Miami where I remember Kenyon Drake and you truly are like Rain Man when it comes to these numbers and stats and players and statisticians. I'm like, I feel like maybe I smoked too much weed in my younger years. Like I have no idea like what I don't now, but man, I can't remember half the stuff you remember.
It's a gift or a curse. I don't know which one. Makes up for my lack of football knowledge. So there you go, right? I remember names and numbers. I all remember the Kevin Harlan call. And of course, we see it all the time now because they have like the commercial with just the O's and the X's moving around on the field. And then it goes, and this will do it, or maybe it won't, or something like that. And then it's like, oh, look out. And it's a great call. It's an absolutely great call. Then again, Kevin Harlan is great with every call. But that game gave the Dolphins a 7-6 record, and they were, lo and behold, they were still alive for a playoff berth, which would have been the second in Gase's 3 years, and then it went whoop, wrong way. Am I right?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's when a team, I learned a lot of lessons over the years, and when a team, the only two coaches I've ever covered that a team didn't quit on. They quit on Cam Cameron. Oh, they did not quit on Tony Sperano. They quit on Joe Philbin. They quit on Adam Gase. They did not quit on Brian Flores.
It or not, because I know there's a segment of Dolphin fans who absolutely hate his guts and will take shots at him at every turn. But they did not.
I don't get that. I never get that. But
really, Omar, you don't get why?
No. Tell me why fans, not us. Tell me why fans.
Fans, because he never really backed Tua. That's why the fans are and they have.
But there was a period of fans that didn't support Tua back then anyway. Tua never really established himself.
But there's a section of fans who believe that Flores
undermined Tua at
every turn and was holding him back. And lo and behold, when Mike McDaniel came in, what's the first thing he did? He's basically he went to work on Tua's psyche and on his confidence and all that. And if nothing else, forget the X's and O's. I've said this from the start. That's the best bit of coaching that Mike McDaniel did. Right then and there, he was a success as a head coach.
And I've never said this. And Saf.
Hold on a second. Hold on. We don't have sound effects. I'll do it. Ta-da! World premiere Omar comment. Go ahead. How's that?
We have. I've never said this. Saf deserves a lot of credit for. Remember at the combine, he wrote a story. I can't remember if it was to his sources or to his dad. Can't remember which one. Same thing. About Tua's very uncomfortable and difficult combine meeting with Brian Flores, and it came off abusive. And they were like, whoa, what's all this? And the Dolphins line was, we want to see if he can handle hard coaching. And man, was there never anything more telling and revealing about that relationship? Because while Flores tells one story, and I interviewed him on I Am Athlete, and he flat out lied about the handling of Tua. It was a very difficult, uncomfortable, abusive relationship from Tua's perspective. And he'll never address it.
Correct.
But by all accounts, I mean, undermined him probably at every turn. In hindsight.
No, correct. It was pretty clear he was not a huge fan, and he kind of like acted that way.
But he's talked another way, but acted that way.
Correct.
And maybe he felt like uneasy or undermined by how much the organization, Greer, Greer, Garfinkel, and Ross were obsessed with Tua.
Correct.
Because by my reporting, he wanted Jordan Love, which I think is like, what?
I mean, like, he's off to a good start in his one game, very small sample size.
Yeah, but I mean, you got, and I get it. You got Herbert, Tua, Love,
but he didn't want Love at 5.
Huh?
He did not want Love at 5.
Fair. Okay, however you want to put it, fair. But he advocated for Love, and I'm like, he clearly didn't want Tua. So why wouldn't you just take the safe route and go Herbert? Unless you just didn't like Herbert either. Like I don't. It's. Well, unless it wasn't. Keep in mind who Chris Grier is. Who is Chris Grier as a GM? He's going to get the coach, the player he wants. Correct?
Not if the whole organization wants one player, and if your coach doesn't want him, it's like, okay, guess what? That's who we're taking.
That's a death sentence, and Chris Grier knows that, and you know Chris Grier's personality. There's no possible way that he would go that route.
Except
he has told me in regards to, I shouldn't put this out, Lamar Jackson, Gase did not want to coach him. We were not going to draft him, no matter how much we liked him. So why would you go the opposite route with Tua?
Because it was an organizational decision that they were going to take Tua, and Grier in this particular case was not going to acquiesce to the head coach's wishes. And it's like, sorry, Brian, the organization wants Tua. We're taking Tua. That's pretty clear.
All right.
Because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Chris is going to acquiesce to the head coach. Cough, cough, Devon A-Chain.
Cough, cough, Mike Gesicki.
Mike Gesicki.
Like, yeah, I don't get it. So why would you? And the quarterback is a way more important position. If Brian Flores didn't want to coach Tua, why did you make him coach Tua?
Again, because I think that came from higher up.
All right. Well,
I mean, I think we get on that. But the bottom line is, we're going back to your point of, like it or not, players did not quit on Brian Flores. And then obviously the prime example is a 7-game losing streak in Flores' 3rd season when he's a hard coach. And that'd have been the time to be like, we've had it up to here with this guy, and then he can easily be out the door. We're probably not making the playoffs anyway. So, my back hurts, or my arm, my shoulder, I can't play.
And they fought hard for that dude, bro. And which is why I was surprised he was fired, but I understand why he was fired, because he was a difficult guy to work with. And then I also understand the lawsuit, because yes, the Dolphins intentionally wanted you to tank and basically were trying to sabotage your career. And it's these are the conditions and the grounds that African-American coaches and GMs are put in. It is what it is.
But it will always boggle my mind. And this is where maybe the decision to start Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2019, after you make the trade for Josh Rosen, pretty clear very early that Josh Rosen is not it at quarterback. But you have, even if you don't want to give off the impression you're tanking, talk about the perfect opportunity. We traded a 2 and a 5 for this guy. We need to see what we have in him, so we're going to let it ride the whole season. You would have lost your
locker room in the first year.
But if the idea is for tank, it's to tank.
Yes, he was anti-tank.
Correct.
I went at him so hard in I Am Athlete, and I was like, you intentionally sabotaged the team, winning that Cincinnati Bengals game, which the Bengals weren't even trying to win.
A great game,
the Joe Burrow Bowl, and why? And he was absolutely adamant about, while the organization might have been tanking, I was not, and I would not mess with the integrity of the game to do it. And I actually believe that. But I'm sorry, you can't claim 20 players on Monday and start them on Sunday and then pretend like you're really trying to win. You're playing a game of poker and throwing in the good cards.
But who was claiming him? Was it Flo or was it Chris Grier? And can I correct a very, very common misconception? The Dolphins did not lose the first overall pick by defeating the Bengals. The Bengals still would have had to lose their finale, and the Dolphins would have had to win. No, sorry, the other way around. The Bengals would have had to win their season finale. Dolphins would have had to lose. Okay, because there was a 2-game discrepancy before they played.
Yes, and the Dolphins kept winning unwisely.
What the Dolphins did is they clinched by beating the Bengals in the next to last game of the 2019. It was a great game, by the way. I don't know if you recall. Excuse me. The Bengals scored like 2 touchdowns in the last 30 seconds to send the game to overtime as Armando, what I call Armando, as Omar rolls his eyes. It was again, if you take away the circumstances of the game, it was an entertaining game. Can you not give me?
I watched that game traumatized. How are you possibly trying to win this game, you moron? And listen, here we are. Here we are. Let's get here we are as a franchise. You know, it would have been a lot easier with Joe Burrow, but we might have the MVP of the NFL this year in Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, no reason to complain right now. As things stand right now, things are good.
I mean, you'd rather have Joe Burrow, but
again, as things stand right now, there's no room for complaint.
All right, you're correct, and the universe self-corrected itself. Zach wants to know: will you and Alan take jiu-jitsu classes together? You'd love it. I actually wouldn't mind taking a jiu-jitsu class.
Hell no! I'll go shoot some hoops. I'll play tennis. We'll go have a round of golf jiu-jitsu. Man,
I want to learn these falls. I do. I am very curious.
Right.
But that's how my mind works.
Tell you what, you go ahead and do it and come back and give me a full report. How's that?
As part of
I played. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was going to say I played hockey. I learned how to absorb a body check into the boards.
Yeah,
not the same thing, but okay.
I've never learned how to absorb a body check. That wasn't part of my growing up experience.
Ice hockey not big in Jamaica.
I grew up here in America, but yes, it's not big. Miami I grew up here in Miami. Like, yeah, it's not part of my experience. I would be afraid to tell you what was part of my experience, but yes, that was not part of it. Okay. Alexander S. You think with JP's banged up, will they elevate Winkovich?
Didn't we already say yesterday that he was going to get elevated?
We said that Chase Winkovich is absolutely being elevated this game. Let's if you got a bingo card or you're able to put money on Chase Winovich being elevated, do so. Save money.
And don't be surprised if Cameron Good's elevated again.
Oh yeah. Cameron Good, Chase Winkovich, absolutely. No question. All hands on deck. This is Emmanuel Ogba's opportunity.
We're gonna have our weekly Emmanuel.
What is that snicker for? Like,
because you hate him as a stand-up edge defender, and this is who he is right now on this defense. And I like the dude. He's a really nice dude. Hey, I would love to see him take advantage of whoever is lining up at right tackle. Calvin Anderson's the right tackle for the Patriots. Love to see Ogba get in there and abuse him for a couple of sacks. Obviously if Phillips can't go.
Yeah, I love to see him with his hand in the ground.
I'd love to be able to dunk, but that's not happening anytime soon.
He can put his hand in the ground, damn it. Put your hand in the ground. Listen, Tristy Dolphin wants to know, I'm a huge fan of yours and a diehard Dolphins fan. Today is my birthday. I don't have a question, but can I get a birthday shout out? Okay, Kelsey, happy birthday. I believe that's Kelsey Trist Dolphin. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Bun fight. About 2 languages. How's that?
What is it
I said bun fight.
That's Canadian. That's
French. Yes.
French.
Or no, actually that's French.
Yeah, what language do you speak in Canada?
That's French Canadian, because in France they would say joyeux anniversaire. It's more formal.
Oh, excuse me. Jeff Horst asks, I'm fearing the Patriots will have 40 minutes of ball possession and 40 rushing attempts. They will. So tell me how we can prevent this Sunday night. Easy answer. You could prevent it Sunday night by getting a lead and maintaining a lead, not fumbling the ball in the red zone, which you've done on more than one occasion, not throwing turnovers in the red zone. I think the Dolphins have shown you they have an easy time marching up and down the field, or putting themselves in scoring position. I think what they need to clean up is their red zone execution. And this isn't necessarily on Tua. This is because Tua's money in the red zone. Let's get the snaps cleaned up. Look, don't you roll your eyes.
I didn't do anything.
I saw your eyes.
I didn't do anything. I was actually trying to remember what they were in the red zone against the Chargers. I think they had the fumble, and I think they settled for a field goal one time when there were a couple of incompletions. So
the pinpoint passes, Tua's not the problem. Snapping, offensive line protection, run game surges. It would be nice if you had a receiver to high point the ball. Tua doesn't necessarily need it, but utilization of tight ends in the red zone, let's clean it up. Sorry.
Okay, again, like I said, I don't remember what the red zone. I remember there was a third down pass where he tried to fit a throw to, may have been Craycraft, and Derwin James came over the top to knock it away. And then the other one, the bad exchange. But overall, yeah, no, I'm not worried about the Dolphin offense either. Schematically, here's because it's obviously, the idea, take a lead and force New England to play from behind the whole night. That's big picture. Schematically, the way you would want to maybe try to stifle the New England running game is get your safeties closer to the box. They're the Patriots to go over the top.
Oh, that's
they're the Patriots to go over the top.
Yeah, Devontae Parker. You're not scared of Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster beating you deep?
Or Kendrick Bourne, or the rookie Keyshawn Boutte.
Keyshawn Boutte.
Boutte. I don't even. Boutte. And I don't remember who their fifth wide receiver is. No, I'm not worried about the Patriots beating the Dolphins over the top. So that would be the schematic way of perhaps stifling New England running game.
John White asks a very interesting question. Do you think that the pursuit of Jonathan Taylor continues if the Colts are willing to accept a more reasonable offer? I don't know what the term of more reasonable offer is, but I think the Dolphins have to be willing to offer something better than a third-round pick, which I'm not sure at this point I'm willing to offer anything better than a third-round pick when I could actually just wait this process out and get him in free agency next offseason.
About a third and Jeff Wilson Jr. when he's back in good. You're not gonna have room for that many running backs anyway. When Jeff Wilson,
I agree.
IR, why don't you?
I would offer that. I mean, okay. But I would offer that, but I'm not sweetening my deal on. And to be real with you, the Dolphins don't really have the cap space to get a Jonathan Taylor deal done right now. They've got $4 million in cap space, but I haven't really looked, but I don't see that many places and areas to create room. Next year, there's places and areas to create room from a cap space standpoint, but I don't see that many places right now.
Okay, you don't think there can be a discussion with Jonathan Taylor explaining that particular situation? You don't want to play in Indy. We'll make the trade. We'll revisit your contract situation next offseason. Hold on a second. If that goes south, then he leaves via free agency, and depending on the kind of deal that he signs with his next team, you can get a comp pick. To me, for a third and Jeff Wilson.
Not for a third.
What? Okay. You don't do Jonathan Taylor for a third and Jeff Wilson Jr.
I don't do Jonathan Taylor for a draft pick and not sign him. Okay. So and I don't know. I got to see it now. At this point now, I got to see it. You want to, and like, I don't know. I just tabled the whole thing. I put it all on ice. I mean, we're already winning right now. I don't really.
Dude, we're already winning. It's one game.
Yeah,
and it's one game, and the AFC has opened up a bit because Aaron Rodgers is gone. Because Josh Allen has shown you that maybe he's still caught up in hero ball, and who knows how long that's going to last. Casey showed you in the opener that if Travis Kelce doesn't like ball out like crazy every game, Patrick Mahomes has nobody to throw to. So and then Cincinnati at losing at Cleveland again, the circumstances. I don't want to overreact to one game, but I mean, it's there for the Dolphins perhaps more so than it was a week ago.
And you think Jonathan Taylor, who does not know your offense, is going to instantly, immediately add that much juice to your team right now? I think even if
maybe
he's
not the first or
for,
second game, but by the middle of the season, yeah, I think he makes a difference.
I'm not giving up a third round pick for a middle of the season guy that I'm not even going to sign to an extension for right now. And then realistically speaking, what's my motivation to pay him $12-13 million a year at this very moment without seeing you do it? You know, I don't know what to tell you on the Jonathan Taylor situation, because we also have Raheem Mostert with a knee issue, allegedly rests knee. I don't know. If Jeff Wilson doesn't come back, you know, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the backfield. I get you. You got two young rookies and Savon Ahmed, but is it really, not that they need it because they're so pass happy, but, you know, is it really where you want it to be?
But this whole thing, again, you're looking at a team that hasn't won a playoff game since 2000, hasn't been in the AFC Championship game since 92. You have a team, as we discussed, if things go right.
All right, you convinced me. I'm in.
Okay, thank you.
I'm in. You convinced me. I'm in. To affinity and beyond, is there any player that could possibly be available that could immediately fit Fangio's scheme and contribute? Yes, Akeem Hicks. We talk about it all the time. If he's in shape and if he's working and if he wants to continue to play, which we'll find out in probably about a month. Bryce Starkey wants to know what happened to Trill Williams. He recently posted that he's fully healthy, no room in this secondary for him. Poupard? I'm not going to take all the hard ones. Go ahead.
No, and it's a very legitimate question. You and I were both baffled, but the truth is, I didn't see anything from Trill Williams in training camp that looked anything like the Trill Williams we saw in training camp last year, where you and I were both like, oh yeah, like that dude.
Yeah, I agree.
The summer he was a body.
And they have more of a need for Ethan Bonner as a cornerback than they have for Trill Williams as a safety. And I think when the safety unit gets healthy, you're probably going to see Verone McKinley go to the practice squad, and you know, and that's where they feel like they have a need. That's where they feel like they want to develop a player. They pick Verone McKinley over Trill Williams, and I don't blame them. I really don't. Is there a potential? Brad wants to know: is there a potential for this O-line to keep developing, maybe into the new unicorns?
You know that's your question.
Yeah, there truly is, and I've seen things in the run game that and understand this unit is coached by the understudy of the man who coached and led the Unicorns, so they have a similar.
Say his name. Let's say his name, Chris Forster. Go ahead.
I generally don't like to say his name because his name
brings he had a bad end. He had a bad ending with the Dolphins.
Yeah, but he's a legendary coach.
Yes.
Outside of the white powdery substance snorting in the office stuff.
See that part you didn't have to bring up. But
I mean, if we're gonna bring up his name, then I got to bring up his name. Okay. Like that's why I generally don't bring up his name, because if I do say Chris Forster, then I got to bring up why the director, the leader of the Unicorns, got whacked. And you know, he even when he was doing that stuff, he was the best offensive line coach in the NFL, and you had him.
He was up there. Yep.
Oh, he wasn't up there. He was the best.
The guy in New England was pretty good too.
Yeah,
and Bill Callahan's a hell of an offensive line coach, but he was up there. He was in the conversation. So your answer is yes. My answer is potentially, yeah. But that's a pretty damn good line they had in 2016.
Oh, but they got a lot of road graders on this line, so I'm very encouraged by what I'm excited to see it with Teron Armstead. I don't think it'll be this week, but I am excited to eventually see it with Teron Armstead. What's the most exciting thing you saw last Sunday that you hope gets carried into the season? Rob Rodriguez asks.
Well, 466 yards, 466 passing yards.
You want to keep seeing Tua deal.
Kind of an easy answer. I mean, if Tua passes for 466 yards every week, chances are they're going to have a good record. I mean, that's kind of.
Oh, he's going to be good.
Kind of an obvious one for me there. Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, if we're looking for something more subtle than that, 0 sacks. How about that one? Actually, you know what? I think that may be even bigger because that keeps Tua from taking hits and that keeps him healthy and in the lineup.
I agree with you. I'm gonna go 0 sacks over the ridiculous amount of yardage. Sean Williams asks, as traumatized Dolphins fan, I'm used to being in a Jets situation, the Dolphins curse, which is real. It's on Indian burial ground. But even though
the stadium, sorry, Omar, so people know what you're talking about. The stadium built on Indian borough.
Not just the stadium, the practice facility too.
Oh, correct. That whole area, yes.
All the Walmarts, the apartment complexes. I grew up in Carroll City. I know that's an Indian burial ground. But nobody cares 20 years later. Development trumps everything. Is it going to be another Dolphins letdown, or are we really turning the corner? Ooh, that's a hard question right there.
Can I answer that in January? I mean, look, we don't know.
He wants a prediction now.
I don't make predictions. Again, if I could make a prediction, if I really knew what the hell was going to happen, I'd be in Vegas and betting that, my life.
I'm going to say this franchise is turning the corner from a number of reasons. One, Tua is him. You know it. I've always believed it. I've always said 2023 is going to be his season. Mike McDaniel, I'm not ready to say genius, but he's a pretty damn good offensive coordinator, creative play caller. People are seeing things in the NFL that are innovative. This run and catch offense, which is what it's now being called. I'm hearing people say that, and it's harder to coach and develop run and catch plays, and his whole offense is run and catch plays. And then Vic Fangio, even though I was not very impressed the first week, and I do have higher expectations, Vic Fangio is supposed to have what he needs to make this a very good defense.
Oh, no, I agree. Here's what I would say. I'm not into making predictions. I think I would tell Dolphin fans there absolutely is reason for optimism and high expectations. Yes.
But you will have that's so Dolphins moment. That's just part of being a Dolphin fan and part of the NFL season. And whether it's injury or not, you will have it. Well, that is it for Saturday's edition of our Q&A podcast. We will be back tomorrow with our game preview, just because we've got all day, and hopefully you'll join us. We'll hit a couple more questions, and maybe we'll have a betting segment. We're still working on it. We're still trying to figure it out. You can find us on your podcast streaming sites at Fans First Sports Network under Dolphins Insider. You can find us here on YouTube, and you can find our work written for free on alldolphins.com. Bookmark it on your computer or your phone. Check it out. We appreciate it. We greatly we appreciate your support.
Thanks, everyone, and happy birthday again.
To who?
The person who asked us for the birthday shout out.
Oh, okay. I was like, hey,
birthday again. See you tomorrow.